He's so veiny. He's so veiny.
Aloha and welcome to He's So Vaeni. I'm trying out some of my new communication techniques with my hands, because a lot of people just they sit there with their hands, like steepled, or they do the thumbs up, penis-y thing, or whatever. I'm doing some new stuff here, folks. Yeah, I'm doing the jazz hand communications. Somehow I've worked jazz hands into 2 episodes now. That's 2 more than probably any other YouTuber out there. Hey, Jeremy Vaeni here for He's So Vaeni. And when I saw this video, I have not watched it, but when I saw the title and the beautiful woman who's going to tell us this, The Beginner's Guide to Spirituality, I thought, I could use that. I fancy myself a guide and a beginner and spirituality. So what's her name? Gabi Kovalenko or Kovalenka? I think it's Kovalenka. The problem is I can't really read this font. Is that an O or an A? But either way, I will have a link to The Beginner's Guide to Spirituality. And you can watch the whole thing yourself, because probably I'm not going to get through about 5 seconds of this. If I ever make it through 5 seconds of anything without stopping, don't take a drink, because you'll be sloshed. That'll be the worst drinking game ever. So let's watch this young, beautiful woman. I say this because, come on. To say that you're doing a beginner's guide to spirituality and you're this young and made up kind of implies that you might be at the beginning stages yourself. But also, there's no such thing as either a guide or a beginning of spirituality. These are nonsense. So let's get into some nonsense here. Maybe she'll convert me.
The modern-day spiritual community has made spirituality seem like something that you add to your pre-existent identity to become a spiritual version of yourself.
Spiritual. Hey, doesn't that go with the kundalini that sort of drains down the back of your... Oh, never mind. That was a whole other episode of this show. But so far, I don't disagree. I don't know that there's a spiritual community, but if there is, I'm sure they believe this.
It seems as though there's an initiation into the spiritual realm by doing certain spiritual things, buying spiritual tools, attending spiritual workshops, going down this route of spirituality which has been established by pre-existing leaders in the game to bring you towards a certain version of spirituality that is supposed to help you.
Why doesn't she know how to say words? Is this an accent of some sort? I don't want to make fun of her if it's an accent, but if it's not, it's kind of funny.
With enlightenment and with finding your true self. But what really is this spirituality that is so promoted in today's world? What is this new age version of spirituality, and is it even what you need to experience the more spiritual version of who you are? Some people associate spirituality...
Okay, so already, even though I don't have any problem with the setup to this point, because it's just the denial of all the things that are nonsense and being sold to you, now we're getting into the territory where she's going to sell you her thing, her idea, or whatever it's going to be. Product idea, I don't know.
You need to experience the more spiritual version of who you are.
But there is no more spiritual version of who you are. And furthermore, if you think that that's just playing syntax games or something, or playing grammatical games, there is no you who needs to experience being you who's more spiritual. This is all, again, fracturing the self. I've talked about this on other episodes, the dividing of the self and saying, this is who you are, these are your thoughts, this is your authentic self over here who's looking at who you are, who's being toyed with by these thoughts, unless this person can become conscious and in alignment with these thoughts. And then you can talk to this person here, and these two people can communicate. Becomes this like Venn diagram of self-actualizing BS. Let's see if she breaks through all of that, or embraces it, or some third thing.
Some people associate spirituality with buying crystals, with using sage or aromatherapy, with going to New Age events like Burning Man, or going to ayahuasca retreats and doing certain spiritual practices like meditating or doing some kinds of vipassana retreats or yoga in order to achieve a certain spiritual edge of your experience. However, there is no one-size-fits-all formula for spirituality.
Well, if there's no one-size-fits-all thingy for spirituality, you just listed off a whole host of things. So clearly there's no one-size-fits-all in your realm of thinking here, right? Because, like, you yourself are not talking about one-size-fits-all. You just listed off several sizes. Okay, let's just go on.
And this is the most important thing that I want to stress in today's video. Spirituality is not an approach to embodying a certain kind of persona, a certain kind of personality. Because spirituality is not about becoming any version of yourself that is inauthentic to who you are. Which also means that there is no one route to achieve more spirituality in your experience. The reason why all of these programs and approaches and protocols have been so promoted is because they drive a certain community-centric model of spirituality, which is very popular in today's world. A lot of people find spirituality because they feel alone. Maybe they have been experiencing a spiritual awakening and want a sense of community. So they find themselves in places with lots of other people going through the same thing, and so certain spiritual activities, like breathwork, meditation, yoga, fasting, all kinds of things like that can bring people together in order to promote a certain spiritual community-centric feel that brings a sense of belonging and oneness.
I don't understand, who is she talking to? Who doesn't know this? Like, and who doesn't, like, either she's not saying what she thinks she's saying, like I was just making fun of before, because she's rattling off all of these different things that you can do, and then saying, listen, spirituality isn't a one-size-fits-all deal. All of those things are garbage. They don't really work because it's not a one-size-fits-all. But those are all different sizes, so that doesn't make sense. Or she's saying that when you get wrapped up in these, you go, oh, I'm doing breath work now. I'm just going to do that forever because I like that sense of community. I like how it makes me feel. And that is the one-size-fits-all. And you could, so with each individual thing that she listed off as a thing to do, which comes with its own community, if you get involved in that, you will stick with that forever. I don't think anyone does that anymore, do they? I think everyone just taste tests from all of this stuff, which is why she can list them all off, and like everyone listening knows what she's talking about. No one's sitting around going, what's an ayahuasca retreat? Oh, what's breath work? No, no one's got those blinders on anymore, if they ever did.
However, even these kinds of group experiences are not for everyone. Some people find spirituality through the work of just going within, doing their own kind of inner retreat, which does not involve any kinds of popularized formulas or strategic ways of meditating, doing breathwork, yoga, or excluding yourself from day-to-day activities in order to feel like you are a more spiritual being.
Is it wrong that I'm at this point just looking at that orange tree in the background and going, oh, that's nice, I'm kind of jealous?
Spirituality is all about integration. And if we come to visualize spirituality as the merger between the physical and the metaphysical worlds, we can come to see that spirituality is all about balance. It's all about moderation, which means it's not about creating a new kind of identity for yourself at all, but rather about deprogramming yourself to the extent that you become the primordial spirit behind your experience of life. I often get judgments even about my appearance, and questions about, is it spiritual to use makeup if you're a woman?
Hey, that was me! Although to be fair, I wasn't really questioning whether she should be wearing makeup or not. I'm just saying, when you're this young and this young, how are you doing a beginner's guide to spirituality? I guess that, maybe, well, anyway.
To dress nicely, to enjoy abundant experiences, to go out and to do things which seem to be very human, and connected to the 3D world. And that's where I think we need to get into the discussion of what spirituality really means in the third dimensional capacity.
Oh, here we go. Here comes the BS. Here comes the real BS. I mean, I was trying to wrap my mind around the primordial thing. Is that kind of what I've been telling you? Is that what I've experienced? But I knew that there was going to be a rub somewhere where like a part truth is going to become the garbage. And here it is. As soon as you hear the words 3D, run.
Because spirituality cannot be introduced to the 3D world without finding a way to include yourself in the 3D world, and that is exactly what a lot of spiritualists are vehemently against. Many people who get into spirituality have a desire to withdraw from the earthly experience altogether.
Okay, forget all this earthly experience nonsense. You are of Earth, lady. Even if your makeup is out of this world. So, when one is fully awake, one does not care one way or the other about the looks or any of that. You can fit into society, you cannot fit, like, it doesn't matter. I guess if you have a goal to be somewhere, you're gonna dress the part if that's what it takes. But you're not attached to dressing the part. It's just something that you do, just like anything. Walking around, making food. Like, there are certain things that you have to do to live in society. And the thing is, you don't have an attachment to it. Like your job, for instance. When I was in New York and, really ambitious and wanting to work in TV and film and all of that, when I had my ambition wiped away, I still worked in TV and film for a time. It's just that I didn't care that I was doing that anymore. Didn't matter what I was doing. And in fact, moving to Hawaii from New York became a matter of like, I can toil away here in stuff that doesn't matter, or I can go do it in paradise. Like, it doesn't matter what I'm doing for a living anymore. So why don't that means I don't have to be in New York anymore, right? So, and thankfully I am fortunate enough to be able to scrape together enough money to get a plane ticket and figure it out. I know a lot of people don't have that luxury, but I'm just saying I did, and so I did. Because once it doesn't matter, it literally doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you put on makeup. Like, this ain't made up, right? But it's not made up because I'm anti-metrosexuality or something. It's just I don't care.
They find themselves wanting to be spiritual because they have gone through challenges in life that left them feeling alone, disappointed, frustrated with the Matrix and with life within it.
Matrix is another run word. Run!
Many people who discover spirituality want an escape from the life that they have been living at present. And so they seek solutions through the running away from themselves and from the life that they have been living in the past, from their traditional day job, from their family, friends, from relationships, from all kinds of things and material attachments, because they think that to be spiritually liberated is to completely cut the cords from their prior existence.
What I would say that again, this seems so antiquated. Like, everything she's talking about is all antiquated, old language and assumptions about people, including the thing about the makeup, because I would say there are plenty of online gurus who are completely made up. I mean, I've made fun of the man bun forever now, right? I'm not a guy with a man bun. I mean, in some sense, you have to be attractive for people to pay attention to you. I don't want people to pay attention to me, so I'm not attractive. See how that works? But no, but that's kind of true, right? So this idea that like, oh, people see that I'm made up, and then they think, well, yeah, certain people are going to look at you being made up and think you're made up and think you're a dunce. But many, many more people are going to watch you anyway because you are made up and it's attractive, and the thing that you're saying, Matrix, the buzzwords, 3D, oh yeah, that's me. Oh yeah, that's great. I would say it's much harder, actually, as she is demonstrating, to have a sense of humor and present yourself as an enlightened one, right? Because if you have a sense of humor, like all of this is supposed to be serious, you know? And she's got that added old school thing of kind of robotic, like I'm not really from here. Like acting sort of like Spock, like kind of a rational alien, or like a, in lieu of rationality, a humorless alien, makes you higher in some way. It just, I don't know, it's like she watched a bunch of old sci-fi or something and thinks that that's how the world still perceives the New Age guru. And here she is, to do what? We still haven't gotten to that.
However, this couldn't be farther from the truth. To be spiritual does not mean to be disconnected, to be detached, to not have a sense of belonging, or to have to completely wipe the slate on your previous life. Sometimes when people go through spiritual awakenings, that can promote the desire to completely change your life, to harmoniously let go of certain attachments that do not serve you, which can include jobs, relationships, different kinds of material things. However, the desire to rid yourself of anything 3D in nature does not have to be the way to approach spirituality.
So that's just not true. When you are not being ambition itself, when you're not ambitious, when you're not greed, when you're not desire, when you're not these things, you're not them, period, full stop. The issues themselves are dropped because they're not you. And so there is no sense of, well, now I'm spiritual, I got to get rid of these a-hole friends over here who are holding me back. Or I've got to get rid of my family, or I've got to get rid of this job, or I've got to start doing something. There's no want in any direction. There's no rebelling. Spirituality is not a rebellion against what she's calling 3D world. And it's also not an embracing of so-called 3D world. It's simply the dropping of desire, of greed, of attachment, of jealousy, all of the stuff that we say are, ideals to be dropped and that we are perpetually working toward and never getting there. It is the actualization of that, the actual dropping of those issues, the not being them, not embodying them anymore. And when that happens, there's no movement in one direction or another because they're not issues anymore.
Spiritual people can still have money, look good, care about themselves, and care about what they have in their life.
See, this is all just her justifying. Look, people, I'm rich and beautiful, and that's okay. And guess what? In a couple of minutes, after a little bit more babble, I'm going to show you how you can be rich and beautiful too, right? Is that where this is going? This beginner's guide to spirituality? Okay, let's see.
And live a very normal, abundant, beautiful human existence. Because
abundant, another run word, run!
Because what spirituality comes down to is how balanced you are at your core and where your values lie. When it comes to the analysis of where spirituality is taking you,
if you're balanced at your core, then it doesn't matter where your values lie. This is where choiceless awareness comes in. You act, you don't react. You do the right thing always. When you're balanced in your core, your virtues period become the case. Not your virtues. You're not thinking about them. It's action. It's not reaction. It's not something built up through time that is this filter of goodness that you always try your best to see through and to act through or react through. You are truth.
When it comes to the analysis of where spirituality is taking you, it's important to realize, why do you desire spirituality in your life? What is it that you want spirituality to bring you? And how are you going to use spirituality to become a better human being? Because ultimately,
how do you use spirituality? Again, all of this is language of you getting something. even in her sort of denials of self in this, right? Even those, again, this is kind of an amalgamation of like everything I've been talking about in terms of even when we, in our wanting to deny the sense of self, we're still acting from the self. The denial is an action. And it's a clever way of still remaining yourself, is to say, I'm going to, deny myself, or I'm going to abandon myself, is a great way to remain the self.
Ultimately, that's what all of this is about. Some spiritual people don the spiritual mask, which I like to call the spiritual ego, which is just a new kind of a persona using the glamorized form of spirituality to promote enlightenment, being better than other people, and using that kind of superiority mentality to gain attention as a spiritual guru or leader. This kind of spiritual fanatism is not something that is actually spiritual in nature.
Fanatism an actual word? Like, I've been making fun of her a little bit for her pronunciations of things, but is fanatism? I'm going to look that up, but I'm only going to interject if it's a word later through editing, if it's a word. If it's not a word, we're just going to go on. In fact, I'm just going to go on and fast forward through this and see if we actually get to what it is she's selling.
Spirituality is about making you think about the deeper nature of truth in our reality, to realize that everybody has their own truth.
Okay, I don't know that she's actually getting to selling something in this. Maybe she really does I haven't watched any of her other videos, but maybe she does think she's explaining spirituality here. But now we're at the other buzzword, my truth. My truth. There is no my truth. This is the problem. We live in a time where we do not like absolutism, and therefore when we talk about actual absolutes, it reminds us of dictators, and then you start saying like civil liberties or some nonsense. But no, truth is absolute. My truth is subjective and probably just an excuse to like BS your way out of something. Let's be honest here. But there is absolute truth, and absolute truth is, as we're talking about with Neil deGrasse Tyson in consciousness or nothingness in a previous video, absolute truth is, synonymous with nothingness, with intelligence per se, the intelligence that transcends and includes all. So, therefore, truth is not comprised of thought. When you say my truth, you're talking about your own thoughts, your own feelings, your own perception, how you perceived something. When you're talking about truth per se, absolute truth, you're talking about choiceless awareness, right action, that which transcends and includes you, and that you can be the first person identity as, or you can have a second person experience of, which means that in your moments of quiet-ishness comes through as wisdom, right? Like, we do have these eureka moments of wisdom that do not come from our own background and from thought and all of that. That is truth speaking to you when you're blocking it out less. And then it becomes you when you are not there to block it out at all. But she's talking about just more of you. Truths, my truth, thought.
Which means that if you try to learn spirituality from one person, they're going to give you one definition. Meanwhile, the next leader is going to give you another definition. The truth for you is going to be something purely individual based on your own soul's experiences, the lessons you've been programmed to learn here.
Oh, God. Okay, where do we begin there? The soul, the programming, you chose this. I mean, all of this stuff, and I'm not saying I don't know anything about her, but I'm saying all of this stuff is generally used nowadays to program you toward fascism and right-wing crap, right? Like, so there is no such thing as anyone outside of you. There's my truth. Just follow your intuition, your truth. Let's put it this way. You're broken. You're unhealthy. And spirituality is health, is wholeness. So in your brokenness, can you trust your intuition? Really? Can you say, I'm going to go with my gut and my truth? How's that doing? How's that going for you, the following your gut? I'm just saying. So then you go down the rabbit hole of like, well, I've gone with my gut and I've surrounded myself with the positivity and the issues that I enjoy and the ways that they are told to me that I can hear without feeling any negativity. And then, that's when the fascists seep in and they go, let's steer you in this direction, programmable robot who believes yourself to be autonomous. You're an automaton, but you believe yourself to be autonomous and you believe yourself to be in strength and a warrior and all this. And now we're going to fill that space with BS. And we're going to get you to go down this road of anger and rage. And we're going to get you to call that being a spiritual warrior. And you're going to be doing our bidding, and you're not going to know it. And we have already tested this out on evangelicals. So we know it works. Get ready, New Age. Here we come. That's kind of what's been going on since Trump.
And the things that you are destined to be experiencing. To be spiritual is to embrace it all. It's to love it all, as difficult as that may be at times. And it's to step into the fullest acceptance of who you are and what you're meant to be doing here. If you can do that, then a lot of things are going to start to flow much more harmoniously in your experience. And you'll start to see that life really is a canvas for spirituality when you choose to flow, when you choose to surrender the guards of your ego in order to really become connected with the more fluid version of your identity. There is an identity that exists outside of the personality which you're used to bearing on a daily basis. And think about what that identity is governed by. There is a soul that exists outside of your human meat suit. There is an essence which is existent separate of your mind and its perceptions. And when you can connect to that part of you which is very subtle but very beautiful in nature, you can start to perceive life in a very different way.
All right, so she's just selling the same old New Age crap. You got an oversoul. Probably you chose all this crap before you got here, before you were incarnated here. Who knows? It's all nonsense. And just watch yourself, if you believe that it's true, watch this in you. In fact, I'm sure if you go to the comments section, I don't know, I haven't even been there, you will see this, because I've seen it in every YouTube video of any spiritual thing ever, except for what I do, which is people liking it. But really identifying with it and going, yeah, that so speaks to me, or that speaks to my soul, or I really needed to hear this. It's all of this I language. All it is she's not telling you anything. She's telling you something that you are either going to embrace because you already believe it and you already want it for yourself, or you're going to reject because it's garbage. She's not going to tell you anything that is a wake-up call. She's not going to tell you anything that you're going to have to sit there and be stumped with. People pretend that sometimes, like, oh, this was really enlightening to me because... But if you get into a conversation with these people, 10 times out of 10, they've already thought these exact same things. They've already bought the same books, read the same stuff she has. But it's like they love hearing the same thing over and over again. It's the same problem I've bitched about with ufology in listening to like my paranormal shows where you hear the buzzwords, UFO, alien, and you think I'm talking about the same thing you're talking about because you're not listening beyond that. Well, here you've got the buzzwords of like 3D, abundance, matrix, and so you already know what that is, or else you're not listening to it. And so you either agree with it or don't agree with it. But the idea that you are sort of like hearing this for the first time and you've never heard anything like this and it's really speaking to you is a lie. It's speaking to you because it is speaking your language.
In a more colorful way, in a way that is indicative of a higher consciousness which is guiding you from a higher level. And when you can come to embody that dimension of truth, you will experience spirituality in its most organic form that is driven by your own soul and led by your own heart, which is the only guidance that you need to figure out what is the most spiritual way for you to live in this experience.
And in my next video, I'll be telling you why COVID wasn't a real virus and the vaccine is full of microbots. No, I don't know that she goes in that direction, but, usually that's kind of where this goes. All right. Just realize how long I've belabored this point. Probably, arguably longer than she's belabored hers. But I think I came to somewhere, right? Like, this beginner's guide to spirituality is just a beginner's guide to more selfishness. And we're all masters of that, so there's no need to call it beginner's guide.
He's so